Hello, my name's Gavin. This is Genre Books, and this is the first of 3 book hauls I'm recording because there were too many books for one video. I've been on holiday, and that usually entails bookshops if they can be shoehorned in, and this one truly was. This was not our destination. This was on the way to the destination. I realised we were passing only 10 minutes away from Astley's Book Farm coffee shop and yurt. The weather was atrocious, so we didn't get to see the yurt. But the coffee shop was good, the bookshop was better. I've split this video into 2 rough sections, one covering the books I bought in the main bookshop, and the other half the less salubrious books I got in the 50p or 10 bob barn, as they call it. It was basically a shed stuffed to the rafters with books, all for 50 pence each. If you're a Mills and Boon fan in the Midlands, this will be your mecca. I am not a Mills and Boon fan, more's the pity, and thank God. But yes, the back of that shed is stacked to the rafters with romance. The front of the shed is completely stuffed with just about everything else, and nothing is in order, or there's no rhyme nor reason to any of it, but you can, with a little perseverance, find some half decent books. However, we'll start with what I got from the main shop. We were on our way somewhere, so we were on a bit of a time limit. It's a shop I definitely want to go back to because there are vast parts of it completely unexplored. But I did head for the science fiction and fantasy section, which was 2 rooms and full of some pretty good stuff, including The Tritonian Ring by L. Sprague de Camp. This is going to help me on my project reading about lost civilizations and mythical places and mythical continents and what have you. It is set in Atlantis. Ace Books from 1967 and science fiction from John Jakes, When the Star Kings Die. It's described here as an exciting new novel of daring do and super science in the best tradition of cosmic high adventure. So, yeah, that sounds like my thing. From Digit Books, Kenneth Bulmer's The Secret of Z. Yes, I don't know much about this, but I do like Kenneth Bulmer, and I do like a Digit book. So this was originally in Ace Books in America in 1958, and Digit did sort of buy the rights to a number of publications that came out in Ace Books originally. So this is from, I'm going to say, the early to the mid-60s, although I can't find a date in it. What this visit allowed me to do was to plug gaps in some of the series that I have only partially completed, and this is one of them. It's 2010, Odyssey 2. It's the last book of the Arthur C. Clarke Odyssey novels, and it's a book I've read before, but I wanted to get a full set. For last August, I read Silverglass by J.F. Rivkin, and I quite enjoyed it. It was fast-paced, proper sword and sorcery, fantasy, nothing too challenging, but great fun. The prompt for August that I was reading that book for was nudity on the front cover, and although the main character wasn't nude on the front cover, she wasn't wearing nearly enough to really be effective for sword and sorcery. At least on this sequel, she's been given a cloak. Also from Ace Fantasy, and the last book in the Caledon saga from Deborah Turner Harris, The City of Exile. Somewhere in the shelves, I think up there from memory, is Fratricide is a Gas by Lindsay Gutteridge, which was the third book in a series, annoyingly. It's a science fiction series where people are at microscopic size. I don't know why they are, whether this is a normal thing, whether this is something that just happened. But now that I have the first 2 books in the series, I hope to be able to find out. So I have here Cold War in a Country Garden and Killer Pine. Next up, an anthology and edited by August Deleth. This is When Evil Wakes from Corgi. When was this printed? This edition is from 1971. The original souvenir press edition was 1963. But it is a fantastic roll call. Definitely one for the spooky nights to come. Donald Wandry, John Metcalf, Frank Belknap Long, George Hitchcock, Stephen Grendon, Virginia Laevsky, Carl Jacobi, Robert Bloch, Simon West, H.P. Lovecraft, H. Russell Wakefield, Henry S. Whitehead, David H. Keller Clark Ashton Smith, Joseph Payne Brennan, and H.P. Lovecraft and August Deleth. So I was wondering if he's going to insert himself in there, and yes, he did. Lots of things from Weird Tales, lots of pieces published with permission from Arkham House, so proper old school horror rather than sort of splattery gore. They also had on the shelves, which is quite unusual to see out in the wild. It does happen, but not to this degree. 3 books I didn't have from the Ballantine Adult Fantasy range. There were more there, but unfortunately ones I already did have. But I'm more than happy to fill 3 more blanks. From Fletcher Pratt and Elsprague de Camp, Land of Unreason. James Branch Cabell's The High Place. And Volume 2, but not Volume 1, of William Hope Hodgson's The Nightland. But from the sublime to the ridiculous, they also had there some Badger books. They had quite a few Badger books, actually, and lots of them were very pricey, and I wasn't going near them. I think the chances these days of finding a decent copy of Rodent's Mutation, or whatever it was called, in a bookshop sold by someone who doesn't know what they've got are long past. But these were reasonable-ish. So £4 for We the Damned by James E. Milton. So not sci-fi, not horror, just a war story. Flame Mass by R.L. Fanthorpe. Lionel Fanthorpe to us, but here we are. They dragged the screaming stranger into the asylum. His talk of fire gods and the universal conquest seemed the ultimate in illusions. Next morning the padded cell was burnt out, and there was no trace of the prisoner. The door was still locked, the door was still barred. Perhaps the arson that followed was just coincidence? But does fire break out for no reason at all? Given that he had 157 pages to fill, probably not. Let me just check that. 158, sorry, my mistake. It's usually 157 or 158 pages for these books. Definitely writing to order. This one's 157 pages. Doomed World, again, R.L. Fanthorpe, this time with extra initials. And what a premise. George Mallory was out for a quiet day's shooting, a typical country man in typical England country. His day's sport was interrupted by the beginning of the greatest catastrophe in man's history. An alien spaceship was crashing at his feet. And this book also does have the mark of true Badger Books authenticity. A couple of pages of very odd adverts in the back. Perfect busts, slim busts, losing hair, gaining weight. And Joan the Wad Send now for your lucky Cornish piskie, guaranteed dipped in the water of the lucky saint's well. Well, thanks to eBay, I do have my Joan Nawad. And you can see, it says on the back, can you see, can it focus? Joan Nawad. And I did have some good luck recently. No, it was my own damn efforts. But we're not finished with the Badger books yet. The Return of Zeus by John E. Muller. And John E. Muller is a pen name for Lionel Fanthorpe. The premise of this is very simple. The pantheon of old gods rides again to bring hideous terror to the 20th century. Another from John E. Muller, so yeah, another from the Rev, is Out of the Night. I will have to read this one soon because it's got to do with lost continents, but it's lost continents, sunken galleons, and the limitless possibilities of undersea farming. Unfortunately for undersea farming, hidden beneath the great rollers lay supernatural forces so powerful that the atomic peril paled into insignificance beside them. Here was an unknown horror so immense that the Kraken and other monsters of popular mythology were as harmless toys beside it. So take that, John Wyndham, with your Kraken. We've got giant Chris Christopherson. So that was the main shop. Stop for lunch, put those books back in the car, and I headed to the 10 bob barn. So 10 bob is 50 pence. Every book is 50p. I would say 90% of the books aren't even worth that. But I think each of these books is worth at least 50 pence. We have a 2011 reprint of a 1937 Western, Colt MacDonald, Bullets for Buckaroos. From 1972, from Terence Lloyd, is a, I don't know, a book about Jewish swingers. So, probably one for Garb August. And something that I know that Pat from Book Chat with Pat read for this Garb August. And I've heard of the book before. I want to see what all the fuss is about. And for 50 pence for it and another 50 pence for its sequel, I thought it was worth a punt. Grace Metalius, Peyton Place. And Return to Peyton Place. Taking my own advice now from a video I made a few weeks ago for Victober about Gutenberg possibilities for Victober. I have George Gissing, New Grub Street. So taking my own advice to read it, but not taking my own advice to download it from Gutenberg. So I'm an idiot, but it's 50 pence. Another Western, and one which needs a little repair on the spine because it's coming adrift. From 1968, Goldlust City by Matt Winston. King of the Westerns now, Zane Grey, The Trail Driver. This is a 1956 copy, but this is from a book originally from 1936. Book from Barney Cohen. I've not heard of it before. Colosseum. It looks to be some sort of thriller, disaster, assassin thing. Someone I definitely have heard of, and it's Brian Aldiss with the 80-minute hour. And if you're thinking this looks a little too classy to be in the 10 bob barn, don't worry. There's cigarette adverts in the middle of it. A book I have not read since I was a kid, and one again which needs a repair but work on the spine, and it's Fontana paperback version of The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. From 1923, this is, you can't really see it from the cover, maybe you can, this is The Brood of the Witch Queen from Sax Roma. So, from the writer of Fu Manchu, this is not a Fu Manchu story, but Anthony Ferrara, who is some kind of sorcerer. This one, a little dog-eared, a little water damage, but from the New English Library, Ernest K. Gann, In the Company of Eagles. So I'm hoping, a story of World War One aerial dogfighting. From 1911, a comic novel from Arnold Bennett, The Card. This is a 1952 Guild Books reprint. Finally, The Uncertain Tomorrow from Colin Roberts. This is a digit book, and it's a digit book that is not a war story or science fiction. So I'm not quite sure what to make of it. It could possibly even be a romance. I don't know. I'm going to have to find out. But for 50p, I definitely thought it was worth taking a chance. That was the Astley Book Farm and coffee shop and yurt. In terms of our holiday, at that point, we're not even halfway to our destination, so there's plenty more book action to come in the next two videos. But until next time.